Hey.
Finally. Hey, welcome over 50, starting over. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
Our classic episode coming right back at you. You know what I was thinking about this morning?
What's that, Barry?
Is we are technically about at the end of season 3 or whatever. Is that it? Six.
Yeah, I was going to say, what?
I'm going to numbers. So
Okay.
when I'm on like Apple Podcasts, it tells me that we have something like 214 episodes or something. So from here on out, I think I'm just going to go to 215 or whatever it is, and so on.
All right, that sounds good. Wait, you have the split screen on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
cool.
yeah. I'm
go
at
back
my
to the
rental.
basics.
Yeah,
I see that.
Sure. And so I'm at our rental doing some work and all. I don't have my mic stand, so I got to hold it. Everything's really difficult. And yeah, it's like going back to season 1.
I know. Look at you. You're two-handed over there. Coffee in one hand, mic in the other one. Man, you're juggling.
I know. I need to get a mic stand that stays here because I do come from here periodically. So getting started, I got some interesting stuff that I wanted to share. Boy, there went my screen for some reason. And it starts with a little backstory. So for about the last year, I decided that I'm looking out externally on Indeed, Glassdoor, and LinkedIn
right.
for whether it's full-time contract work or whatever. It's since post-COVID, it's just a ton of business development and just helter skelter. And I want to just do creative. And people at my stage of the game tend to, your trajectory is to go in, you want to be a director or something where you're just project managing and managing people.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. I've been there before. I was doing that in my 20s and I didn't like it. So I left to go out on my own and do creative. And so that's what I'm looking for. Basically, I'm looking for mostly the title is senior graphic designer. But point being, sometimes it's marketing manager and things like that. But point being that I put together a resume, and I actually have 3 different versions. They're just slightly tweaked differently. One for content marketer, one for senior graphic designer, one for creative director. And all of those things kind of overlap. It just depends on what title somebody chooses for whatever. But my point is, so I took a lot of time. I Googled resumes and looked for creative ones, kind of like, in my industry, I'm a designer. It's got to look really good, right? And I even then took some time to talk to a friend of ours, mine and Lisa's, who is a director of marketing and corporate America. All right. Big.
Right.
So it was great. We reviewed my resume and everything. And she's like, wow, really good. Just told me about a couple of tweaks. I had it in chronological order, my work history.
Right. Which most people
should be
do.
Inverse. You should put your most current at the top.
Oh, you had the oldest at the top.
Yes, I did. That was dumb. I didn't know better. I hadn't done a resume in 30 years,
Right.
So, I'm real happy with it. Looks great. And I put it out there at least 100 times and got very little action. And it started to weigh on me, like, what's going on? So just the other day, something on Indeed popped up because there's been some really interesting jobs out there that I'm really kind of hot for. And just the other day on Indeed, something popped up and said, hey, for $19.99, have a professional look your resume over.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
$20. Yeah.
Oh my God. That was the best $20 I ever spent in my life. I found out a real live person. I'm going to show you what they sent me.
Okay,
I got my own webpage. It's got a video on it and it's got the written notes that goes along with it. And a real live guy gave me an 18-minute video on what was wrong with my resume.
For $20.
For $20.
Wow.
Invaluable. And first thing he says is 99.9% of people are never seeing your resume. So
what does he base that on? Yeah.
Oh, because what happens is I did not know this and nobody told me this. And I've talked to, I talk to people, I talked to you about this,
right.
But people like you, I'm sure you have a professional probably do it for you. Okay.
I have.
Okay. Well, I did mine myself, but just did some research. And so what he says is, if I say it right, it goes through ATS software, which means he goes, it looks beautiful. He goes, your resume looks beautiful, but you're a designer. You formatted it in a page layout program, and you got these different columns and you got these different fonts. And he goes, it looks great, but when it gets parsed by this ATS software, which is something like auto transcribing service, it just tears everything out into a plain text format. And he goes, you need a plain text version of your resume, because and he showed me. I should go ahead and try to.
Yeah, can you pull it up? Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, if I could find, I got so much stuff open. Oh, I wanted to show you this just quickly, because this is mine in your texts, and I sent you a couple pictures. Do you see it?
Those are beautiful, Barry.
Oh God, it was so beautiful.
You know, Cleveland at this time of the year, we probably say this every year. It's
here are
absolutely, yeah.
The Grand Canyon.
Went to the Grand Canyon last week with Anne Marie, and we checked out the whole place. It was a mind-blowing experience. The one picture down below with the red sky was the sunrise that we got to see. It was so worth getting up at Old Dark 30 to see that. It was a highly spiritual experience.
I mean, that right there makes you feel, puts things in perspective. It's like going to the ocean. And
it really does. You know. Look at Anne Marie too, with her camera all set up and everything, so professional.
But you know, the first thing I thought, and I think I said this to you, is our cameras today, as of the last couple of years, actually finally capture the depth. They didn't used to. And I would take those fall pictures in the past, and it just didn't capture it. Now that kind of does.
You know, you're right. You're right. But I gotta say, Barry, that there is no picture of the Grand Canyon that you can take that will give you the real perspective. I mean, it's just not possible. Even when you go there. I mean, I had to sit there for, you know, a long time to really just take in what I was looking at. There's so much detail. There's so much. You're looking a mile into the earth right there. I mean, it's crazy, not to mention the intimidation factor, which there was a lot of that going on for me. I tripped on a pebble and then I was all freaked out. I could have fallen off a cliff if I were down there, which I'll never go down there. But, you know, when we were, I didn't mean to get off the subject. I just have to say this, that one picture with the sunrise, we got there and it was dark. And but what we saw, which I thought was incredible, there are all these trails that go down into the canyon, which I'm never going to go on one of those trails, Barry. They're terrifying.
I see the
videos. I saw like it was almost like a line of traffic with people with flashlights. I could see like a zigzag of lines going down into the canyon early, like before the sun came up. It was pretty spectacular. Also, I felt sorry for those people.
Really?
Also, it was cold as I don't know what. Really? And after being here, well, for me, it was because
you're a freeze baby.
Well, I am. And plus, you had to get used to this 115-degree heat all summer long. And now suddenly we're there. When we got to the top of the canyon, it was 38 degrees, I think, 37 degrees. Oh, but going down in there, those people. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was chilled just watching it.
Well, I understand. And speaking to how your blood gets thinner or whatever it changes. You want to call it. It's kind of like a 50-degree day in Cleveland in the fall is cold. 50-degree day in the spring is like, let's go to the beach, you know, because you got through the winter and yeah.
But you know, some of this is like, boy, it was 100 degrees cooler in the canyon than it was back home. You know, it's kind of crazy.
All right, let's get back on this.
Sorry about that.
No, that's quite all right. Yeah. So I'm not going to go through this video. I'm just
this is cool though. Hey, the guy sent a video.
Yeah, I did. This is what it looks like. My original resume looks like, and I didn't share the sound. It just occurred to me, of course, because I always forget the first time. So I'm not going to worry about it. Right. But anyways. Everything, the important points that he tells me in the video are in here and over here. And for those of you that are just listening, I'm going to describe this for you a bit. Now here he shows me, or at least somewhere around here, there's a bit about, so he rewrote a bit about my opening summary statement, which was very handy, and told me about, you got to put, you would think I would know this, an SEO expert, but he's like, you got to put more keywords that they're using in the job description in your resume.
That's big. Yeah, I heard that too. Because the AI picks up those keywords.
There you go. There you go. So somewhere in here, he was showing me, like, you could there, skills, instructor at Lakeland Community College. And look how the case is all jumbled and jacked up, everything. This is
so that's how it comes out the way I'm seeing it right
all
now.
Messed up. So like he said, 99.9% of people never even saw your resume.
Or they got frustrated when they tried to read it.
Dude, the computer never spit it out to them. It would have gotten flagged like this is garbage. And so over here, the comments, ATS info. So that's that automated transcription service or whatever that every resume goes through. So the point is that it should be you should have a plain text version of it. What was really, really cool is,
that's interesting.
Just as I close this up, I just happened upon Google Docs, because that's where we keep our O5O notes in, right?
Right.
And there's a template, boom, right there, resume. They supply you a template for it. Just use that. And just highlight where it says job description and type in your own stuff, and you're ready to go. I mean, if you're doing your own resume,
if you're doing your own,
and for God's sake, spend the $20 to have a professional look like this.
Where did you go to do that? How for the audience?
It was like, because I get.
Oh, that's right. It bubbled up to you.
Literally inundated with job descriptions from Glassdoor and Indeed and LinkedIn all day. Too much so these days.
So wait, let's stop right there, because that is important. That you sign up for these, and what I've learned is that other agencies also pick up on it. So it's not just the one place that you put your resume, and then suddenly you're getting 40, 50 opportunities every day. And it's hard to after you start to become overwhelmed. Your inbox becomes overwhelmed.
And the amount of time I end up spending every day going through these is getting to be substantial. I get excited about it. I mean,
sure,
I see some of these and there's so much remote opportunity.
There are a lot. Yep.
Yeah. That was the blessing from COVID. That was
one good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, let me just finish this up.
Go ahead.
What else? I wanted to point out something else. 6 to 10 hard skills. Well, bullet out your experience a lot more. That's something else that he told me. Like, I was writing too much in paragraph form. Now, again, Merle, you and I a long time ago had a conversation about, which ultimately amounted to something of a gentle argument between the difference between a resume and a CV. And I always forget what that stands for. Do you remember? It's a Latin word.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot it too.
Yeah, we did share that one time. But a CV is could be 8 pages, where it's very identifiable. Oh, I know what else I wanted to say that he pointed out that was very valuable, is he said, use the WHO method, WHO, which is what I did, how I did it, and the O is the objective. What were your results?
What were the results?
Yeah. So,
that's pretty cool. The WHO.
Very valuable.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So I just put this together in a text format, my first one on Thursday. I got a call. I had an interview the next day.
Oh, you're kidding. Wow.
I did. I had just a phone call interview. It's with a big hospital out here. And I think we both kind of arrived at the fact that I wasn't a real good fit. I'm a little overqualified for that particular role.
Yeah.
But
still,
Lisa and I were talking about, I got to talk to this HR person who I had a very good relationship with on the phone there. She knows what I do now. She knows me. She might call me back and say, you know what, I think I got a better fit for you here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's all about networking. And what great advice though, too, because I'm sure a lot of people have experienced the same thing. It's frustrating when you're dealing with these types of sites and you're spending a lot of time, like you say, You're putting your resumes out there, you're getting excited, and then nothing happens. And I think that's an experience a lot of people are having, because what happens is it never even goes to a person. It's AI that's figuring out who gets bubbled up. And I remember being on the flip side of this as a hiring manager. This was before all the AI stuff, but you would just get inundated with hundreds of resumes when you put out a job opportunity. And there was, for the hiring manager, it was overwhelming. And resumes, after you read 5 resumes, you're ready to go to bed. I mean, they're just boring.
So I sub out my programming stuff to people like from Pakistan or India or whatever, you know. So when I have heavy programming on a website or something like that, I sub that out, and I try to maintain relationships, find somebody good and try to use them. Because man, when I got something unique out there, I have to do exactly what you're saying. I get within 2 hours, I got 30 resumes. Right. And the first thing you're doing is trying to delete as many as you can.
That's the goal.
That's the first thing.
Because you can't do it any other way. You're looking for any reason to reject people and narrow down the scope. And so this is what AI is doing, and they're randomly doing it. And if you have something like, and you'll never know it. That's the thing.
That's why I want to share
something
this.
Like what you were doing, you just would never find out unless you spent the $20. I mean, that was worth, that was worth gold right there. What a deal.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you're sharing it, because that's valuable.
I hope it helps a few people out. All right,
I hope
man.
So too.
Moving along, I want to just touch on a few productive things here that also might help some people along. And I think that you got something to weigh in here on. 2 things. I want to talk about hypertension and sleep a little bit. Hypertension, I'm on a very low dose of, I think it's called, now I can't even think of it. Amlodipine, I think is what it is, like 10 milligrams.
These names.
And for blood pressure.
How do they come up with these names?
I know. Well, the end part of it, like peen or whatever, means something. It puts it in a particular class of a drug. Yeah. But so I'm on a very low dosage of it, but it keeps my blood pressure perfect. Like every time I go to the doctor, they're like, good, it's right where it should be. So
nice.
So that's the only thing I'm on, and I'm good with that. But so this is 2 natural solutions for hypertension, which is high blood pressure. And check this out, Merle. Hypertension now affects 1.13 billion people worldwide. Can you believe that?
I can.
That's a 1/7 of the population.
Yes, I can believe it.
That blows my mind, and that's according to the World Health Organization. So
well, they're
going to jack up the numbers to sell.
Well, true. They tried to sell some more of that hyper jalapeno or whatever that was that you said. But the fact is that, as you take a look at the life that we're all living in this world right now, there are people. When we were growing up, your dad went to work, your mom, did kind of the maybe she had a part-time job and she was taking care of us and all that kind of stuff. And now parents can't even stay together, but if they do, they're both at work. They're struggling. Especially during this time that we live in right now with inflation and 401ks evaporating. And then add on top of that, we don't have time to cook good meals, so we're going out to eat. We're getting fast food. We're getting stuff at the store with a bunch of preservatives in it, and we're getting all fat and disgusting, because of this, and the salt content and everything. Hypertension is going to happen. I mean, I just saying all that, probably I probably need some of that stuff.
Well, to your point, my finance guy's secretary called me just the other day to set up a meeting to go over just the like quarterly or whatever it is. I'm not talking to that dude now. That's what Lisa always pulls out the mail and checks all that stuff out. I'm not looking at it right now. This is the worst time. It will eventually come back.
It will. So it's a funny thing when it happens, though, because when it happens, you're thinking I better pull the ripcord and get out of this.
I know, and a lot of people do.
And I've done that before.
Done it before.
And was very sorry that I did that.
Same.
Because then a couple of years later, it's like, holy cow, this thing has hit the jackpot. And I bailed on this when it was at $4.
You know, I had a bunch of Marvel stock way back in the day. Like I'm talking late 90s, and they filed for bankruptcy. I lost all of it. Then they went public after that, you know, started the movies. That's why I put so much money into it, because I knew they were going to start those movies.
Right.
And
you talked about that too. When we were
younger, that hurts.
Remember that? Still hurts. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't even want to talk about this anymore.
All right, let's not. All right, let's get back to this. It's a quick one. Okay, medication's often needed, just like I said, but your daily habits mean a lot too. So whether you've been diagnosed or you're trying to prevent it, here's a couple things for you. Eat a plant-based diet that's not high in sodium. That's a tough one for both of us. I think it's a guy thing. I need to eat more vegetables and leafy greens. Leafy greens are also a brain food.
Oh, so, right.
Yeah. And I don't eat enough. I buy these containers, these big containers of spring mixed greens. Yeah. And they're good for salads if you got some good cheese with them.
Yeah.
But more often than not, most of it rots before I eat it.
Don't you hate that?
I do, but I'm good for putting it on sandwiches. At least I do that.
That's good. Good for you. I haven't had a sandwich in 90 days.
Dude, right. We're going to talk about that.
I haven't had a sandwich. I haven't had cheese.
I got okay. We got to stop talking about that now too, right?
Yeah. Don't make me angry, Barry.
So that the plant-based diet, regular exercise, I think that's probably the most important thing for everything in your life. Moderate alcohol intake, practice stress management, and prioritize sleep. Okay, research reveals 2 natural remedies for high blood pressure are, listen to this one, electroacupuncture. It's the first I've ever heard of that.
Never.
This is a form of acupuncture that utilizes low intensity electric pulse.
I have heard of that. I've seen that before, where you've got the pins in there and they've got a small, it's almost like the TINS unit when you go for physical therapy.
I've had acupuncture before.
I've never had that before.
I think it was for inflamed disc in my neck. It was a long time ago.
How did it work?
Yeah, I went several times, and as I recall, it had a benefit to it, like massage. It's pretty much the same kind of benefit. So this can help lower your blood pressure after you're already there. You're in the problem phase. But,
I see.
So to prevent. So secondly, getting plenty of omega-3 fatty acids in your diet. Now, I take those. A
supplement.
Yeah, they're like gel caps.
I do too.
Oh, do you? That's really good, man. I take those every day.
It's part of the program.
Oh, good. Oh, really? And that makes sense too. I bet you, I don't know this for a fact, but I would think that it'd help curb your appetite too, because you're getting the good fat.
It's funny because I mean, I take it because it was either that or I would have to have like some fish meal every week, and I'm not a big fish eater, so I just went with that, and because it's important. But it wasn't like I felt a difference, like. But I believe it's good.
Sure, and so this says add a couple servings of wild salmon to your weekly menu, and keep some omega-3 rich walnuts on hand as well. Healthy snack. So those are good. Lisa makes salmon every week. Every week for her part of her weekly regimen, and I've never had better salmon. She makes. I won't ever get it at a restaurant because hers is the best.
I have to say that I'm not a fish person at all. And when I went on vacation to Alaska, everybody was raving about the salmon. And I'm like, give me the meat, give me the steak or whatever, you know? And then on like I was there for 10 days, I think. And it was like the last day, I'm like, all right, I'll taste some of that. And it was like, why haven't I been eating that? That was like the best salmon I've ever had. I didn't even know I liked it
every day. Yeah.
But if you may say it's good salmon, there's no substitute. But most salmon isn't that.
Right. No, well, right. I mean, I used to make it a lot myself.
You did?
And I got pretty good at it. But when I screwed it up, it's like really forcing myself to get through it. You know? But Lisa's is like,
I can imagine.
It's a cross between like a meat and butter. Like it flakes apart and everything.
Actually, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, you would love it.
Yeah,
you would love
I bet
it.
I
She
would.
puts all the tons of parsley over the top of it, and
Mm-hmm.
I think she bakes it kind of quick.
Yeah.
So hey, so moving on just to this final thing, because it's part of that hypertension. You know, a big
Yeah.
point was to get
A big
prioritize
deal.
sleep.
Yeah, that's we were hearing that more and more about
we
sleep.
are hearing that more and more. So I wanted to ask you, what are your do you sleep well? Do you have bouts or what?
I have to, this is funny because on this program that I've been on, it was a big part of the program is making sure that you get a good night's sleep. And even my health coach, of course, is my brother. He was telling me that, you know, after you get a good night's sleep, it's sort of miraculous because we're on this weight loss thing. It's almost like you sleep and you lose weight. And so they were asking me a lot about, do you have any trouble sleeping and everything? I do not have trouble sleeping
ever.
I every once in a while I do, but for the most part, I close my eyes and before you know it, I'm in sleep, and I have a great sleep. I get up to go to the bathroom 1 or 2 times a night, but I get back in bed, boom, I'm right back to sleep again. However, I was showing you those pictures. You were showing the pictures of the sunrise the other day, and so we decided we were going to go to bed at 9 o'clock and get up at 4 o'clock the next morning. And Anne-Marie fell right to sleep, but we had the TV on, and there was a commercial about the person in the commercial, some kind of celebrity, and she was saying, I sometimes have trouble sleeping. And then this whole collage of experiences that she has when she's sleeping, that she's imagining she's at work and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want that to happen to me. And I turned off the TV and I went to go to sleep. I didn't fall asleep until about 3 o'clock in the morning. I had to wake up at 4. It was terrible. So the one time I had it, but for the most part, I sleep pretty darn good.
I do for the most part. I do have bouts of insomnia though. And they're
That's horrible.
Little less rare than they used to be. Yeah, That's good. Can I pause you for 1 minute?
Yeah.
And just like that, we're back. Okay. So I do have some bouts of insomnia, but they usually don't last long. I eventually will go back to my own advice and start listening to self-hypnosis sleep YouTube videos. And I just shut off the screen and just listen to it.
Oh, that's good.
It's really good. It really works for me.
I have, my favorite stuff to listen to too, which I did. So even though I didn't fall asleep right away, it was almost like, well, I'm glad I'm awake. I'm glad I heard all of this stuff. So it all worked out really good. That's I try to pump in positive stuff and everything. And there were a few times that I thought I was going to fall asleep, and then as I was falling asleep, I suddenly was like, oh my God, I'm falling asleep, which is what woke me up again.
Yes, I've been there. So this article says, short article from the Cleveland Clinic, don't focus on just quantity of hours, but quality. So the frequent awakening in the night is really, it's hard on you. And
it's disruptive.
Charlie gets me up at least once during the night, usually 2 in the morning. Yeah, always.
Well, when my kids were infants, both of them took about a year for them to sleep through the night. So, I had them a year and several months apart. So for about 3 years, I had to wake up several times during the night, and I look back then like I'm older than I am today.
Oh my God, really? Well, you do look so young. You look so good. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Barry. I appreciate it.
You really do. Well, I mean, especially you've sent me some of these full body pictures of late because of your dieting. My God, you look good, man. I mean, like Scott. Remember what happened to Scott?
Yeah.
You're going through the same thing.
It's the same thing. I'm right now at the lightest weight that I've been since I got married to Anne-Marie.
Wow.
And so that happened in 11 weeks.
Wow.
And I'm 41 pounds down. And so, let's see, do the math on that. It's about 4 pounds a week on average is what I've been losing. And it's really been incredible. And It's actually I feel so good about it, and I feel so good about myself. Everything. It seemed like an impossible task when I started. It seemed like, well, maybe it works for other people. I don't know if this is going to work for me. And I'm looking back at this. I can't even believe it. I mean, this shirt that I'm wearing right now, I couldn't wear anymore. I'm wearing all kinds of clothes I couldn't wear before. Thank you. I think Hallie and Brandon got this one for me. So nice. Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. And I just going out to the Grand Canyon and being able to. We were at 7,000 feet, and the altitude does affect me. And the other thing was that at the canyon, the National Park Service had a water main break, so they ran out of water. So in order to go hiking there, you had to bring all of your water. And so my backpack was like 40 pounds.
Exactly what you lost.
Right. That's so funny because I'm like going up these hills and just and then I realized that this was the weight on my back is exactly what I've lost. And I mean, that was a revelation for me right there. But and then this was the only vacation on record that I can remember where I actually lost weight. And so that was pretty cool too. And
that's very cool.
Yeah. So this is a good deal.
Let me ask you, are there any new updates to this diet program that you like? Are you in a different phase? Are you doing something different now?
I'm not in a different phase. I'm still in the weight loss phase. I have a goal that I'm trying to get to. I'm about 2/3 of the way there right now. So very, very much on track. And then there's a maintenance phase that you go into after that. And, looking forward to that part. There are some things that I've had to abstain from since I've been on this plan. Not a big deal for me at all. But one of them is drinking. If you have even one drink, that'll stop the weight loss. It won't happen for several days. And so I haven't had a drink. I like to have a beer every once in a while. Probably the worst thing that you could have. But,
sure.
But I there have been a couple of occasions where I wanted to have one, but it really was no big deal. And also it's such a change in I haven't had any butter, very low salt. I drink black coffee now, which by the way I'm enjoying. And so lots of little changes like that I've done that have made a complete effect. And something my brother warned me about is if you do go back to some of those foods that you loved, you're probably going to be surprised at how not good you feel after you eat them. So while I was on this vacation, we had the craziest time trying to find a place to eat in this little village we were staying at. And they're still affected by the whole thing we've gone through for the last couple of years where they don't have the employment there. We had to go to 4 different restaurants to find a place where we could eat. One of the restaurants took our order, came back and told us that they couldn't put our order in because they only had 2 cooks and they couldn't. And we were like, oh, and I was so hungry.
Still don't understand this. What are these people doing? Yeah.
I don't get it either. And so when we got to this restaurant, and the meal I can have is lean and green. So you have your protein, and I ordered a burger, just the burger part, and I got a salad, and they had mushrooms. And I'm like, oh, I can have mushrooms. So I ordered these mushrooms, and Barry, they were so good.
Yeah.
Later that night, I thought I was going to die. Those were sauteed mushrooms, sauteed in butter. And I wasn't even thinking about that, but I felt awful after that. Wow. So like my body has changed. Just my taste, everything's changed. It's really,
this is something that you can relate to along the same lines. This is really funny. This is way back when Lisa and I first got together. So this is at least 13 years ago or so. We've been together 14 and a half years. And so it's 13 or 14 years ago. I was way out at her place in Macedonia, and I said, I don't know why, but I have this craving for chip dip. I go, there used to be this Lawson's convenience store.
I remember.
They had the best chip dip. And
I remember this.
And I hadn't had it since I was like a kid, right?
Right.
So on the way home, I go and pick some up and all that. My taste did change so much in my adulthood. I did not like it. I mean,
it's probably disgusting.
It kind of was. It kind of was. It's kind of like if you eat that candy bar that you haven't had since you're a kid and you remember it being, it's like Reese's peanut butter cups. That was always my favorite.
Right.
I ate one today because I have this in my mind of how it tasted. All I taste now is like rock sugar, you know?
Yes.
That's all I taste.
Yes. I totally get what you're saying.
Butter.
Yeah. It's terrible. I mean, you know, Barry, we have an Indian reservation down the road from our house. It's the Pima tribe. And it's kind of interesting. I read this book, our Flags of Our Fathers. And it was about the Iwo Jima and the flag, the guys that raised the flag. And the guy at the very end is a Pima Indian. You can see he still has he actually has his Indian smock on under his uniform, and you can see it sticking out at the back of his uniform. Anyhow, the location is only a couple miles down the road. And so I've visited it and I was surprised. I haven't really experienced a lot of Indian reservations, but even though the wilderness that it's in is beautiful, it's high poverty. Sure. And we actually got kicked out of the reservation, me and Anne Marie, because we stopped and we thought, oh, look at this view. And then some guy came up and told us that we were illegally parked and that we on this reservation. And they have different laws on the reservation, and you better pay attention to them or they'll throw you in their jail. But anyhow, the Pima Indians, it's an interesting history because they've been here for centuries. And when the Europeans started to move into the area, there's, water supply is pretty important here. And there was a river that was going down into their area that the Europeans commandeered. And so to compensate, our government decided, now they can't grow their crops, that they would give them, just food, like factory food. And so they're okay, they took it and everything. What happened to the tribe was mass obesity, high blood pressure, hypertension.
Predictable.
Not only that, but they introduced alcohol as well, and the alcoholism was really high. In fact, that guy that was raising the flag was extremely affected by the alcoholism and died at a very early age as a result. But it's interesting to see that here's this tribe that was very healthy, living there for centuries, but as soon as they got on that processed food, it messed up all of their health.
That's all you need to know, really.
Yeah,
that kind of tells the whole story of that in a nutshell. But you know what else we did to Native Americans is we introduced diseases that they never had before.
That's right.
And something like 90% of them actually died from that rather than war.
That's exactly right. Well, you know what's interesting? A lot of people don't know this. The Pilgrims, of course, when they came to the continent, they met an Indian named Squanto, and he was the only guy. He was the only guy there. And it's an interesting story. Those Pilgrims never would have lived through that first winter had it not been for Squanto, because he knew how to help. He knew exactly where to find food. He actually plugged them into another tribe that helped them. You always see the picture of the Pilgrims eating Thanksgiving dinner with the Indians. That really did happen. And a lot of those Pilgrims died that first year getting through the winter because it's so tough. But what had happened, the reason that Squanto was the only Indian there is because the Europeans that had come there before had introduced those diseases. And Squanto was actually taken back to the UK as an indentured servant and lived there for about 20 years and learned how to speak English and actually liked the European people. But he wanted to go home to his people, and he found a way back. When he got back, no one in his tribe was alive. It was because the smallpox and things like that had completely wiped them out. In fact, the other Indian tribe was kind of staying away from Squanto because of this whole thing, even though they liked him. But think about it. When the Pilgrims got there, this Indian comes out of the woods and he's speaking English, and he's telling them exactly how to live. What are the chances of that?
Right.
And anyhow, but to your point, this is what happens. It happens in reverse too. We were getting diseases we hadn't gotten because we hadn't been on this continent. So, but isn't the immune system an interesting thing?
Yeah.
How this whole herd immunity thing happens, and I don't know. I'm fascinated by just that story that you just told, and this story too.
Well, the immune system is interesting. I think I mentioned this a long time ago on the podcast, but a long time ago, I saw a Dateline special that there was a study. They covered the study that it was about kids, and the kids from the city versus the from the farms, the rural. The kids from the farms had much lower instance of colds and flu and disease and all that because their immune system was so high because they're exposed to everything. And my point is that we're in such a society now that all we worry about, we're germaphobes, and there's good and bad to it. Remember when we were kids? You'll never see this anymore, but I used to love those pretzel rods. Stick your grimy little hand in there.
Go ahead, kid. Go ahead and grab your pretzel. They would let us all
here it is, middle of winter.
Pretzel, right? Okay, which one can I have?
Right.
We all did that, though. That probably helped us tremendously.
Probably, right. Let's just finish up this one thing because I got a couple of current events I really want to talk to you about.
There's some good ones.
So the sleep thing. So, it says, minimize your disruptions absolutely as much as possible because it's not the quantity, it's the quality. You want to get in that REM sleep. If you could just get into that for a little bit, you're going to be a lot better. Like that good nap,
Yes.
Okay, so
on our program, they talk about the lighting in your room, a dark room, and the quietness of the room. So how important that is. A lot of people want to go to bed and have the TV on.
It's terrible.
I don't know about you, but anytime I've ever fallen asleep with the TV on, the next day I feel exhausted.
I do it a lot. And something I want to mention towards the end, towards the lighter side, is I started getting into the show Succession.
Never heard of it.
Really? I'm surprised. It's on HBO Max, and I kept hearing about it so much by people I respected that I started watching it. It's intense. But I will watch that, and I miss out on a lot. There's so many shows because I fall asleep during it, and I watch everything on my laptop. So it sounds counterintuitive to everything that it's talking about here, but for some reason that doesn't bother me. That's not the thing that bothers me. So this says, throw the works at it if you have to. Eye masks, white noise, earplugs, dark window panels if you have to. But whatever it takes.
I do all that.
Avoid
the eye mask and the earplugs.
Do you really?
Yes, I do.
And
sometimes Anne-Marie likes to stay up and watch TV, so I can't go to sleep like that.
Well, see, Lisa and I can't even sleep in the same room because we used to, but we'll kill each other. And
really?
No, we just have completely different habits. It's very, very hard for her to get to sleep. Everything wakes her up. And
oh boy.
So also I had something else. I was going to say, another thing, it's not in this article, but it made me think of it. My buddy Jay, he found out after, my God, of years of being like irritable and everything, he found out that he has sleep apnea.
I was pretty sure you were going to say that.
Yeah. So he went and did a sleep study and found out he was getting horrible quality of sleep. And now he wears one of those masks and stuff to bed. So maybe consider that if you're having problems.
And Scott, my brother, had sleep apnea, and he lost all that, and he had to get on the mask, whatever that is. And if you ever see, that looks horrible to me. Like that looks like a torture device, actually. Like I don't know how anybody does that.
Yeah.
But he'd have to take this device when he would travel with him and everything, and you got to keep it extremely clean and all this stuff. Anyway, he lost all that weight. Now he doesn't need it anymore. He doesn't.
Oh my God! Yet another huge benefit.
Yeah,
it's like endless.
It is endless. I mean, really, when you take a look at what's happened with healthcare today, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like the trust factor with hospitals and doctors isn't there anymore.
Couldn't agree more.
So the best thing you can do is, number one, make sure that you're not overweight. It seems like the weight thing is the biggest obstacle in the way to our health.
Absolutely.
And that if we can just take that down, just like with Scott, if you just take that down, lots of these things are just not going to happen.
And they never told us that all through COVID.
No, they didn't. In fact,
number one factor that you could do to take care of yourself and avoid COVID is to be at a healthy weight.
Right. I mean, and that's it. And that's it. And they did. There's a lot of things they didn't tell us, Barry.
That's a fact.
I'm not going to go into that right now, but it's infuriating how they treated us like we're stupid. And they really think we are stupid.
And they're trying again. I saw.
They really are.
I'm never going to get through this article, but I just saw an article the other day about 3 different diseases are going to watch out because they're coming this winter. So now they got to double down on everything. Something's going to have to work. Watch. They're going to pump up the fear factor.
Well, they are already. I mean, you've seen the debates that are happening, and the one side keeps bringing up that this respiratory thing that's coming after your kids right now, and I mean, and what they're doing with these kids. I mean, why
always going after our kids?
Why
CRT and kids?
Yes. I mean, I get it. I get why they would want to look at the Cultural Revolution in China. You get the youth, and you've pretty much captured the nation,
right?
And this is what's going on.
But
anyhow,
I know, but they bamboozle well-intentioned people into, because it sounds like, oh, well, you got to be, you got to accept their sexuality, and you got to accept the systemic racism. You got Biden saying that the number one problem in America is white supremacy. That's mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing. And then you look at Biden, and, yesterday he came out and he was talking about the airline industry, and he's talking about how it's illegal what the airline industry is doing. You buy a seat, and then you don't find out until after you buy a seat that you bought the seat that didn't have the 6 extra inches in it. And, that's illegal. This is disproportionately affecting people of color.
Oh my God, he really said that.
Yes. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm too stupid to know that I got to pay a little bit extra to sit in first class.
That's
or
exactly
in the
what
class.
He's insinuating.
It is exactly. And it's disproportionately affecting me. So like, can you imagine me getting on the plane and being like, what? How come I ain't get one of these seats?
I mean, he is.
Yeah, why does it have to be? Why are they painting me into this? Like I mean, I also heard him say that Black people don't have lawyers or accountants. So
I remember that. What was that in reference to? I forget.
I can't. You know what? There's so many. It was
about a year ago.
Now.
There's so many things.
I mean, and it's just like the craziness of this whole thing about how here comes a Black person. Okay, now speak in a very calm voice.
Don't use big
excited.
Words.
They get they're excitable people. Okay.
God, that's awful.
Terrible. It's terrible how this is happening. And I'm
all right. So
it's kind of comical in a way.
Yeah, we're over 50 minutes in, and I haven't gotten through this little tiny article yet.
I know. It's so fun though.
It is. It's really fun. All right. Just a final couple tips about sleeping to help get a good night's sleep, but make sure you got a good mattress. I mean, I think we overlooked that.
That's huge.
Because over time, that thing slowly, becomes, let's say, not so firm for your spine. So you want to keep your spine relatively straight.
Well,
fine. Stay cool. Keep your room at least around 65 degrees, because if it's too warm, it interferes with your body's natural night.
Did you say 65 degrees?
65.
Wow.
Well, that's
okay. I would love to be able to have my room at 65.
Oh, Anne Marie would not allow that?
No. It's just in order to set that, it gets to be 110 here. So, when you set it at 65,
that's going to be different for people up here in the North versus people in the South. Just as we said a little while ago, your bodies are just adjusted differently.
Yeah.
So take that with a grain of salt, I suppose.
Well, it cost a fortune to get it down. That's what I'm getting at, is 65 and 110 degrees weather is going to be very expensive. So, and you're right. Sure. It's relative also.
Right. And almost done here. All right, stick to a sleep schedule. In other words, like you and I used to do, go out on the weekends, and it's a totally different thing from the weekday, right?
Yeah.
And it's really, and the older you get, the harder
that is to maintain.
In fact, it says double down on all of this if you're over 65, because aging compounds sleep woes. So see your physician if you're having trouble. And I think that's a good idea, because if you had that sleep apnea, you could overnight fix a big problem.
Well, I'm pretty sure my dad had sleep apnea, and that led to his heart attack. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. There are telltale signs, and one of them is dark circles under people's eyes. That's a big one.
Oh, for sure. Now there's a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Incidentally, I was just walking back from the store when we're going to jump on this, and I started listening to the latest Jordan Peterson podcast, and he is interviewing Josh Hawley.
I love Josh Hawley.
Well, I got to tell you, I didn't know what to make of him. I get influenced a lot by Lisa. And Lisa, though she's conservative, she watches everything. But what's most out there on TV? Left-leaning stuff. She watches The View. She watches NBC, Morning Joe, and all that. So she's like, I don't like Josh Hawley.
She's a conservative and she watches those things? Yeah. Wow, I don't know how she does it.
Open-minded, though.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Oh, I told you before.
Somebody's got to do it.
It'd be during the Trump era. I'd come down to get my coffee, and she's got Morning Joe on, and they're losing their damn minds. Like my hands shaking and everything. I had to get the hell out of there. As quick as possible. They lost their minds every damn morning.
Yes, they have. Yes.
So anyways, he's very interesting, very intelligent, and very well informed. But I'm barely into it, but I'm already very impressed with him.
Yeah.
And my point to that is, there are times when I get from Lisa, I don't really like this guy or that guy, but she's only inferring because of the crap that they say on the left-leaning shows.
I understand.
Because then I'll go and hear them, like Tulsi Gabbard. She's like, I don't like her. Tulsi Gabbard, they made a kind of an aura about her for being, as they said on the podcast, she was on Rogan again, not too long ago.
Yes.
And they were saying about how there was just through mainstream media this feeling that she's crazy. Oh, crazy Tulsi Gabbard. And somebody respectable, Joe was saying that somebody respectable, he mentioned Tulsi Gabbard, and he's like, oh, she's that crazy one, right? He goes, why would you say that? And he put him on the spot. He goes, tell me why you would say it. He goes, oh, I don't know. That's just kind of how she's thought of.
It's what they heard.
Put that out there. And they do that with a lot of people. And you just wait. They're going to do that to DeSantis.
Oh, they've been doing it to him.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. They hate him. And the whole hurricane thing, they tried to set him up a whole bunch of times. Joe Biden went down there, wouldn't have a co-meeting with him, but met with all these mayors. It's just crazy.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's really nuts. But you're right. And what's interesting about Tulsi Gabbard is that she ended up connecting with Carrie Lake out here in Arizona, who's running for governor now. This is a very interesting race, Barry. The woman that Carrie Lake is running against is Katie Hobbs.
I saw some of this.
Okay, now Katie Hobbs,
not a respectable person, if you ask me.
Not at all.
No.
And she's the Secretary of State here, and of course in charge of the elections. And of course, this is a hotbed for the whole election thing. And and so Carrie Lake is a former newscaster here in Phoenix, and so everyone knows her as the newscaster out here. The great thing about Carrie Lake is she's a former newscaster. She knows all their tricks. And she calls them out on it every time. And it's a thing of beauty. The way that she does it, very much in Tulsi Gabbard style or Kristi Noem style. She's so cerebral.
I swear to God, these ladies that you just mentioned could save this country.
I agree. I agree.
Since Tulsi Gabbard went independent, I had this conversation with family over last weekend, and I was talking about how much I respect both Tulsi Gabbard and Kristi Noem. And my friend said, well, now that Tulsi went independent, imagine, I said, because imagine if Tulsi Gabbard ran against Kristi Noem for the presidency, we couldn't lose. And he goes, run against? What if they ran on the same ticket?
That's right. That's exactly right, Barry. I could see a Carrie Lake. I don't know if you've heard Carrie Lake at all.
I saw her.
She's the real deal
last week. Agreed.
I listened to her. So she's, depending on who you listen to, she's either 11 points up or 4.5 points up over Katie Hobbs. But when I hear her speak, Barry, sometimes I get choked up. And it has to do with the fact that I just had to flee the state of California. Yes. And this whole talk about this state turning into something like a California because all the Californians moving here is terrifying.
Yes.
And but when you hear this person stand up for us, and that's what she's doing, she's standing up for the people, and taking back our government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And lately, so Katie Hobbs won't debate Carrie Lake.
Oh, really?
Won't debate her.
It's kind of like AOC won't debate anybody.
That's right. So this has become the strategy, is don't debate. And it is interesting because if Carrie Lake got in there with Katie Hobbs, she'd rip her apart, because she can't. Katie Hobbs can't even talk, and Carrie Lake is so smart. And the reason Katie Hobbs says that she won't debate Carrie Lake is because Carrie Lake is a bully, and a bully. See how this?
It's always the victim.
It used to be that you have to stand up to a bully, but now their whole thing is, oh, it's a bully, and it's like, wait a second, you want to be our governor? And you won't confront a bully? Well, how are you going to be the darn governor?
Well, okay, Merle, can you imagine her actually getting the majority of votes in Arizona? Could you imagine?
It doesn't make sense that it could happen.
But also, you know what else doesn't make sense? Gavin Newsom, every elected official in New York, but many, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, none of these elected people, it blows my mind they ever got elected.
I agree with you, and it's really crazy, and it makes me suspicious, actually, on what's really happening here. And I really think that somebody like Katie Hobbs should recuse herself from the position of being in charge of the votes when you're running for governor. Like, that's a conflict right there, and it can only lead to bad things. So, but you know what's interesting, Barry, over the last week with these, I don't know if you've seen some of these debates that have happened over the last week, like Lee Zeldin and Kathy Hochul, and then Whitmer against the Republican she's running against, and Herschel Walker.
God, I've heard more than I need to hear from Herschel Walker.
Well, the fact is that these Fetterman, by the way, these people on the Democrat side, it looks like I can see why they didn't want to debate the other person, because it's never going to help them to get in front of somebody and get called out according to this whole according to what the voters are really concerned about. One of the top ones is crime, and a lot of these people were big on defund the police, so they don't want to have to defend that, especially when you take a look at all the crime. And then the other one is what happened with the economy, and these people it's going to be interesting what happens here. Well, I kind of can't wait till we get it behind us.
I know Biden, but we got a lot of dumb people in this country, though, and they just get on board. I mean, when you got mainstream media is your propaganda arm, and they're in cahoots, and
powerful,
and they will get on board with repeating the same mantra over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's all you're hearing, you're going to believe it. And they're already, blaming Republicans somehow. And hey, I'm not a Republican either. So I'm not trying to act like
but you're all about justice and fairness, and like in the dirty tricks that are being
Some really dirty tricks.
Back to the Kari Lake thing. So this week in the news, Katie Hobbs' office was broken into, and so she's out there saying that it was Kari Lake.
Oh, God.
I mean, just accusing her of that.
Yeah.
And then here's another thing that's in the news, and this is terrible, Barry. I don't know if you saw this or not, but this apparently somebody broke into Nancy Pelosi's home last night and beat up Paul Pelosi.
What?
Beat Paul Pelosi with a hammer.
When did this happen?
Last night.
Oh my God, I didn't hear.
Okay, so let me just read you some of this. This is from CNN. Paul Pelosi, the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, was attacked with a hammer at the couple's San Francisco home, according to law enforcement sources. Oh. The intruder shouted, "Where is Nancy?" before the attack, according to a source briefed on the attack. Pelosi, 82, is hospitalized and expected to make a full recovery. The House Speaker's office said the suspect is in custody. The Speaker's spokesperson said police are expected to give an update soon. And that just came out while we were talking.
Wow. I just pulled up the Daily Mail because they are quick with the headlines. Paul Pelosi, 86, is in brain surgery after 2 a.m. hammer attack, blah, 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 everything you just said. Oh my God. Hey, I wouldn't wish that on the enemy. That's awful.
This is terrible. And it just speaks to, the society that we're living in right now, where, I mean, who knows it. This could become highly politicized, and who this was and what their motivation was. But, we saw somebody came, during the Roe v. Wade thing where someone showed up at Kavanaugh's house with weapons to murder Kavanaugh. I mean, the heightened rhetoric, the partisan rhetoric, as each side is the enemy or public enemy number one. And this is war talk, and it inspires this kind of violence. I'm not a fan of Nancy Pelosi at all, but she's the House Speaker, and I'm an American, and that's an affront to me as an American.
Agreed.
I don't like Paul Pelosi either, but that's just evil.
That is evil.
Oh, it's sick.
It is.
It's sick.
And I'm sitting here telling you how much I don't like those people as you're saying that. So, but I do when I'm being fed intentionally divisive stuff. And I think we're getting wise to that. Most of us are getting wise to it. And so we need to keep on that movement. But along with that, people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Biden and Trump, all these people are so damn old.
They really are.
And so embedded into our crooked political system. We need a youth movement that is a little less corrupt and going to pull us out of this. I've been trying to get to this for so long. Interesting stuff. Okay, from this week. Have you been hearing about Kanye West this week?
I have.
I happened upon, I subscribe to Lex Friedman's podcast, and he's a robotic engineer who just has a very good podcast. I discovered him on Rogan being interviewed on there. He's got a very popular podcast, and he had Kanye West on the other day that I think by sheer coincidence happened to be like the day after he put out some really anti-Semitic tweets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so the podcast became mostly about that. Now, Lex really likes Ye, as he is now called, which is stupid. But I would encourage you to listen to it. It's very, very interesting. What I got out of it is, first of all, he hung tooth and nail towards his anti-Semitic speech. But you know what? We jump on anything that we can call racist today and hang on to it for all we're worth, right? And I'm not supporting anything anti-Semitic. I'm certainly not. And Lex continuously made the good point. He's like, dude, you keep referring to Jews running the music industry and running this industry. How he goes, because you had experience with a couple of individuals that happen to be Jewish, because you got to understand. But what what I really, so Kanye bought Parler because he got kicked off Twitter and beaten up, so to speak, on Twitter, which anybody that would subject themselves that much to Twitter amazes me anyway. People committed suicide over it. Right. Just get off Twitter.
Right.
My God,
right.
It's not oxygen. So he buys Parler. Now he has investors, but he's the face of it, right? And anyways, what I got out of that, I heard Kanye on Howard Stern on Rogan not too long ago, maybe a year ago. It was a very interesting podcast. This one was too, and I'm trying to assess who he is to myself. Like, why is he so popular? And because the one time several years ago, he made a music video about him and Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I got to pull this up. I go on YouTube and I pull it up, and I thought it was a parody. It was so ridiculously bad that I thought it was a parody. And it wasn't. Like, people are like seriously like this. And that dude cannot sing. So I don't understand this. But I will say that he's very creative. So he's also got his hands in all kinds of different industries. And like, he's a fashion designer and apparently a big name in fashion design.
Yeah.
And so he's interesting in these regards. But he talks, like, he compares himself to the biggest figures in history. His ego is way out of control. But here's what I can also tell you. It's well known that he's very bipolar. And so when you get somebody that's bipolar during the manic episodes, that they are like on this unbelievable high, right? And you just, if you don't see them when they're on the depressed episodes, you don't see that part, then you might, I think people get on board with this, and he surrounds himself with a bunch of yes people. And so that perpetuates everything. This is me trying to figure out what the hell's going on with this guy.
Now, I think you're onto something here.
But I'll also say there's something incredibly interesting. Okay, now this is a day and age where narcissists definitely propel themselves. Okay, so whether it's via Twitter, social media, the Daily Mail that I pull up every day is just hysterical with how hard people are trying to get their picture in there for something or another, right? And Donald Trump, I mean, narcissists win these days. And so, Kanye is, as big as they get with that. I mean, he and Kim, they probably exploded when, they came together because narcissism in one room.
Right. I can't imagine how they could have pulled that off with two narcissists like that.
It's got like two magnets coming together and then repelling.
Right. And that's what happened too.
I think that's kind of it. So I think what is really interesting, and I give him a lot of credit for, is that, so he seems to be able, however, I'm not privy to this information. He manages his dark side of the bipolar very well for whatever reason. But when he's in his manic phase, which is like riding a big high, he is productive as anyone has ever been. He is nonstop. He comes up with an idea, and he doesn't just think, wow, that was a great idea, and forgets about it the next day. He acts on it immediately. And he writes things down, and he keeps going and going. So I'm giving credit where credit is due. You've been frozen up for a long time, so I'm just trying to keep talking here. So this is interesting, though, and here's where this goes. And I think you actually dropped. Hopefully you'll call back. But this is interesting as well. So speaking of his problems on Twitter, Kanye, Ye's problems on Twitter, Elon just bought it yesterday. It was official. And so my question is, will it be free speech? That's all he talked about for the last several months, is Twitter does not have free speech. And hey, you're back. So I just kept on talking about this. Right. So as far as Kanye West goes with his problems on Twitter, that leads me into yesterday, Elon officially bought Twitter, finally. And so my question Will it be free speech? That's all he talked about the last couple months. But now he says yesterday in an article, we cannot let it become a free-for-all hellscape where anything can be said without consequences. So it should be warm and welcoming to all. Well, that sounds like censorship to me. How are you going to pull that off? I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, I think that when you have billionaires in charge of these things, free speech is probably not going to be the end result.
Yeah, so you got Kanye owns Parler, right. Elon owns Twitter, Trump owns Truth Social. Dude, we came out of the closet as an oligarchy now. We are officially an oligarchy. Yeah, for sure.
That's what it looks like.
And look at Bill Gates with all the crap he's behind, trying to get us to eat plants because he's buying up all the farmland and everything.
And bugs. Yes.
Yeah.
You'll eat bugs and you'll love it, Barry.
Yeah. And we won't own anything and we'll love that too.
Right. Exactly.
Those are the two big current events that I wanted to talk about. So
I think those are big. I mean, the whole thing with you're right, though. You're making such a great point about these big communication social media hubs all being owned by billionaires. We see Google, we see these all of them. I mean, they're all so powerful now. They're almost too powerful for their own good. And we should never look to one person like an Elon Musk and say, oh, he's going to be the savior of free speech, when this guy's very compromised when it comes to China and the business that he wants to do in China with and the electric cars and the batteries and all that kind of stuff. The guy's got satellites up in space, communication satellites. I mean, think about if this guy wanted to hurt us, if he woke up one day and he's just, you know what, I hate everybody. Think how badly somebody like that could hurt the security of each and every family here in America.
Well, for sure.
I mean, it's too much power for these people to have. I'm in agreement with you.
Mark Tennant and I, my dear friend Mark Tennant and I, went to the Winking Lizard last night.
I love the Winking Lizard.
Yeah, and we were talking about this kind of stuff, and he's really into Bitcoin and NFTs, and he really believes, and he made a lot of sense too, that would save us from damn near everything. Privatizing things, getting the World Bank powerless, basically. They would be powerless. So they are trying very hard to develop their own. And
that's right.
You know how in bed they are with our politicians. So they're going to start hearing all the time about how the existing cryptocurrency is evil and their cryptocurrency is going to be the right.
You're hearing it already. That's definitely happening. And when you hear governments talking about crypto and the central banking system, beware.
Well, he also made another great point, and he says this could also save us from ourselves with all of the debates over elections being rigged, and every time the loser's always going to go into that camp. Now that we've seen it. The Dems did it with Hillary, the Republicans did it with Trump in the last two elections. He says Bitcoin makes that irrefutable, because you vote on your Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like an irrefutable piece of your identity. And if you have it and you vote via your Bitcoin, you have one vote and boom, that's Barry Edwards' Bitcoin. Those things are identified via all these different computers,
right, that are independent and they don't have skin in the game. I get the safety factor. Yeah. The problem is that exactly what you mentioned is these very, very powerful sources that want to commandeer that whole thing, and they're very close to doing it right now. And you see the new prime minister that came into the UK because the former one couldn't handle it after 41 days, and this guy wants to bring in this type of currency and put it into the central banks, and he's all plugged into the WEF and look out. So this is a positive thing that could easily turn into a sword that stabs you right in the wallet. And we're gonna have to keep an eye on that one, because that one's important. Speaking of that, though, Barry, did you see PayPal back in the news again?
Again, let's see. Are you talking about from like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, from 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, they told us that they were going to go ahead and change their acceptable use policy to invoke penalties on people
$2,500
if they put disinformation or misinformation out there, and everybody found out about it. There was a huge uproar. Everybody was mad.
They
and
didn't
then
see that coming.
A couple days later, they came back and they said, oh, this was all a big mistake. Yeah, somehow this happened. It was a big mistake. No. And you and I talked about it, and I was saying there's no way you could just make a mistake like that, because this is in their legal agreement. That means that the general counsel of PayPal and the CEO would have had to have signed off on it.
Exactly.
And so here's the story today.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you've not yet deleted your account, now may be a good time. If you are a seller and receive funds for this is from PayPal. This is what the first part wasn't from PayPal, but this is what it says now. This is what PayPal was saying. If you are a seller and receive funds for transactions that violate the acceptable use policy, then in addition to being subject to the above actions, you will be liable to PayPal for the amount of PayPal's damages caused by your violation of the acceptable use policy. You acknowledge and agree that $2,500 US dollars per violation of the acceptable use policy is presently and reasonable minimum estimate of PayPal's actual damages. So PayPal quietly reinstated the $2,500 fine for misinformation after they said it was a mistake 2 weeks ago.
They need to make some changes at the top. They got some serious problems there. Now, here's my problem is I've been using PayPal for years for my clients. I need to switch that over to Stripe. It's just a big pain in the butt.
That's the problem, is they know that it's a pain in the butt, and they're going to try to get you anyhow. And the bigger problem is there's no definition for what misinformation or disinformation is. I mean, we know that one disinformation is actually supposed to be more evil than misinformation, but they don't really tell you who's in charge of what disinformation and misinformation is.
What was misinformation last month could be truth today.
And what that happen? This is the question that you had earlier, though, Barry, is that, this is an attack on free speech right here. Sure. And these are the beginnings of the social credit score as well.
There you go.
This is the scary thing that's happening right now.
Well, it's back to the stupidity again. Like, how could they sit in a boardroom, discuss that, and say, okay, yeah, let's run with that. Let's make that a policy. That's brilliant.
And then say, oh no, put it out there that we made a mistake. And then 2 weeks later, okay, now let's just put it back in there. No one's going to notice.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's mind blowing. Are you going to get away with it? If they get away with this, I mean, it's just time to open up shop, because the criminals are in charge, and we might as well say whatever we want and get our piece, because this thing's all going to blow up in a minute.
I wanted to share with you before I forget. I was talking about Mark Tennant, what he was saying about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, how that he really believes it's going to save our butts in many different fronts. He shared with me, I pulled up the email last night. He's like, you gotta listen. He goes, this is a YouTube video, but just listen to it. He goes, this guy, Josh Rosenthal, is brilliant in presenting the whole Bitcoin thing very thoroughly and clearly. So I haven't listened to it yet. So I'm just sharing this with our listeners, that if you want to get more informed about this, Mark says that he's a really intelligent guy, Mark. He says that this guy does it so crystal clear. And he says it's super engaging. Just go to YouTube and type in Josh Rosenthal, and come up. You should be able to come up with
that's good. And this is the other thing that I think that these governments have an advantage of, and it's that people are ignorant of cryptocurrency. I know I am. Well, I know very basic things.
It's hard to wrap our heads around it.
It is.
It takes over and over again to get to. It's like quantum physics.
This is the thing, though, that governments are. I mean, they see this kind of thing and they salivate because there's so much. It's nebulous, right? It's like climate change. You can't really identify what climate change is, but you could just say, oh, that's climate change and give us millions of dollars. And this is the same thing. It's too complicated. It's not black and white. So
there you go. And with that,
so people can be easily taken advantage of. Right.
They get afraid of it. And
that's
it's easy. And all they ever do is try to get us fearful of whatever. Fear. They try to keep us in a state of fear.
You know, I'm not a huge fan of FDR, but the one thing he said that I think was brilliant is that we have nothing to fear but fear itself.
That's
and
brilliant.
Look how our government, I mean, he was the president. Look how our government now, even our presidents use fear all the time to coddle,
number one tactic,
to corral us into whatever.
And I think that's
terrible.
I thought Kennedy was
no, that was FDR during the Great Depression.
Okay, you would know for sure.
I bet you Kennedy said, "Ask not what you can do for your country, but ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." That was his inauguration.
You know, there's two things that we need to hear. We need to get back to. That's one.
Yes,
that is one. That's big. And the other is united we stand, divided we fall.
Boy,
you never hear that anymore.
I mean, disunity is the thing that is coming at us left and right. And you're exactly right. We need to start treating people that have a difference of opinion as okay, you have a difference of opinion, but we're all still in the American family here. And stop treating each other like enemies. It's a cheap trick by these politicians that we're falling for.
Right. I put that at the top of my show notes. I put united we stand, divided we fall.
I love
big letters.
Yes.
What was I just going to say about, what was the last thing you just said?
Well, let me just say this, going back to that attack on the Pelosi's is that, hey, I'm not a fan of what they stand for, but you just attacked the House Speaker, and I'm an American, and now I'm going to get you. You know what? You're going to jail, buddy. And I even if that was a person that I liked, I would feel the same way. You attacked my government, and now you're going to pay the price.
That's awful. I mean, this gets back to our mental health, which we don't know what to do about mental health issues in this country at all. And we make it worse. We stoke it, as we're just talking about, because of the fear. They're just always trying to make us more fearful about everything. And that gets people that are kind of on the edge there, that sends them over. That sends them over the top. So we need to make some changes.
I agree. Hey, how about this? There's a couple things in the news right now about oil and gas, of course.
Sure, of course.
But we're seeing here Saudi Arabia issues warning to Biden to not drain strategic petroleum reserve. Boy, the Saudis are just on Biden like unbelievable. They came out about a week ago to say, yeah, Biden came over here, told us to, not to announce that we were going to cut back on our oil supplies, and we're just going to tell on him and say that he's trying to manipulate us. And then he came back and said that there would be severe repercussions for us for not doing that, for not helping him in the election. And they just told on him. That's what Trump got impeached for, by the way, when he called Ukraine and said, hey, I want you. They said, oh, we want you to dig up dirt on Biden. That's not exactly how he said it, but he got impeached for trying to manipulate the election. And that's exactly what Biden did. Well, now we see this strategic petroleum reserve. It's at its lowest level since 1984, with just 17 days worth of supply left. Okay, the strategic oil reserve is for wartime. If suddenly our supply gets cut off, we still need to be able to ship supplies across the United States so that people like you and I don't starve to death and we get our supplies. But this guy, in order to make sure that gas prices were low so that his people could get reelected, went and used all of this so that now, at the very time that Putin is threatening nuclear activity against us, you're going to use up our strategic oil reserve, petroleum reserve. This is I think that's an impeachable offense.
Dude, there's so much. And
but get
these
this.
these are coming from the same people that told us for 4 years, yelled and screamed for 4 years that Trump was going to get us into World War III, nuclear war, and kill the economy and everything else. Now it's true. Now we are really, I'm sorry, you go ahead. I just wanted to say that.
I just wanted to say, on top of all of this, just today, Joe Biden said that when he ran, one of the reasons that he ran for office was because gas prices were at an average of $5. No, the average gas price when he took off was $2.37. That is a full dollar above that right now, and he's trying to fool us because he thinks we're dumb into thinking that gas was $5 a gallon when he took. The very first thing that he did on the first day was sign the executive order to cut down the pipeline, the XL pipeline, which, by the way, would be producing oil. See, it wasn't yet producing. It would have been producing oil right now. If that would have been open and the spigot would have been open, and had he not signed that, we would have had all kinds of oil coming, which we don't have now, which is so crazy.
He's been a disaster.
My question is, there have been an enormous amount of terrible moves by the Democrat Party starting in August with the raid on Mar-a-Lago. I think that was a terrible move to make right before the election, including the announcement by Pfizer regarding the transmittability factor. That's a huge thing because we heard about the pandemic of the unvaccinated, which now is a lie. We heard about we're seeing this whole debacle with the oil and the Saudis. You got the nuclear war about to happen here, or at least Putin's talking about it, and Biden's talking about nuclear Armageddon. He's making all kinds of faux pas. His Democrat Party is really screwing. What is going to happen?
You didn't even mention Afghanistan. Everything about Afghanistan.
I know, right? Exactly.
That was a disaster.
That's a huge
$100 billion, as I recall. $100 billion in our artillery and weapons left over there, helicopters, Black Hawk helicopters and stuff. And people it's forgotten about. Here's probably the worst of all, is that damn border.
It is the worst of all. You're correct.
And I mean, they just won't do anything about it and tell us it's not a problem. And they're doing everything that can be done. Merle, I don't have words for what a disaster this has been, and we got to survive another 2 years of this.
How are we going to do it? I just hope that changes happen in Congress, because then that whole agenda gets stopped and we can start to turn this around. But I'm not a big fan of the Republicans either. So
no, I'm not either. Because they're corrupt as well, but they're not right. They're not infiltrated with this far left woke crap that somehow took over Biden's mind. And I say this, I think other people are starting to say this too. We were saying this weekend amongst ourselves. We had family over. What happened to Jill Biden? Where is she? How does she sit across the dinner table from him in the evening and not say, hey, you're being used as a puppet here, and this is wrong. What you did today was wrong. Right. And not only that, but to not be upset that he is being used and he's being made a fool of, that he's constantly being put out there where he's not capable. He's not physically and mentally capable. And he's being put in situations where I don't want to say it's laughable. It's not laughable, but it's alarming. His, the decline of his mental state is, it's on stage almost every day. It's recorded on video, and if I were Jill, I would be trying to find a way to ease through this with more dignity.
I agree. Look at Fetterman too, and what is his wife thinking? If you saw that debate with Dr. Oz, that was horrible. So I felt terrible for the guy.
I felt bad. Yeah, I really did.
But he needs to recover is what he needs to do.
And this is another one of those like Trump versus Hillary situations. Because you got Fetterman or you got Dr. Oz. And I mean, so what are you going to do there? I mean, I don't know. Dr. Oz, I think, was a very respectable guy that has kind of made a fool of himself.
I kind of feel that way. I've never been a fan of Dr. Oz, but I'd rather have him there than Fetterman. I agree with what you said. It's the lesser of two evils, I guess.
Yeah, we got a lot of that. We always have a lot of that these days. Well, oh, what was I going to say? So if we want to go to the lighter side on this, I just wanted to tell you that, so I started watching the show Succession, and I don't know if I told you this, backing up a little bit, but, you know, Lisa and I typically watch a show I get into, like Breaking Bad. I introduced her to that, and when we watched all that together, and it was like best show ever. And it was just so sad when it ended, because it was,
I know how you feel.
Oh God. Yeah. It was like losing a best friend, and it was such a good show. So we went from that to like Ozark. What another, very much like Breaking Bad, amazing show. Oh, that ended. So I told her all along. She's like, oh my God, it's almost over. You know, a couple months ago, I said, next, Justified. I said, amazing show. And if you just watch the opening 10 minutes of the pilot episode, you'd be hooked. You'd be absolutely hooked. It's up there with Breaking Bad as one of the best shows of all time, in my opinion. Wow. Have I told you about the premise of it? It's so good.
No.
Oh, the actors are so good. Timothy Oliphant is the lead actor in it. Just a really charming, great looking guy that he's got a coolness about him that he's really engaging, but the cast is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Here's the premise. Okay. Opening 10 minutes of the pilot episode. Here's this cowboy-like guy, cowboy hat, Timothy Oliphant, the star. He goes walking into a really swanky Miami restaurant. It's outdoors and all that, and sits right across from this clearly drug kingpin guy, right? And he goes, I told you last night that you had until noon today to leave town, or I would shoot you. And he goes, you got 5 minutes. And this guy starts talking. Oh yeah, really? You're going to shoot me? And he clicks down. He goes, you got 1 minute. And he goes, oh yeah, you're going to just shoot me right here in the middle of a restaurant in Miami. It's 30 seconds. It's 10, 9, 8. And at 2, the guy goes for his gun and Timothy Oliphant shoots him right in the head, right there in the restaurant. That's the premise of the entire show. So here's what happens. So he's this cowboy guy in this modern day in Miami, right? And he goes and shoots this guy in modern day Miami posh restaurant. Well, he goes to a hearing. He's a marshal. He's a U.S. Marshal, right? He has his hearing and everything. And what they do is they demote him back to his town in Kentucky, this little town. Actually, he's out of Lexington, Kentucky. But okay. But everything is kind of goes back to his hometown of Harlan, Kentucky. It is like the Old West, basically. And so this is what the show is all about. His ex-wife lives there. He's got a girlfriend then that lives there. There's this love triangle that kind of goes on. And there's 6 excellent seasons of all of this adventure going on. And Kentucky, this little tiny hillbilly town of Kentucky, kind of plays a character in the whole thing. So you've been frozen up for quite some time now. I am sure that I'm going to just pause this, but okay, so here you are. So I just finished the description of the show, and so it's really good. And Lisa loves it. Like, she can't wait. We'll binge 3 episodes at a time. They're about
I love that
minutes.
kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. God, it's so fun. We look forward to it so much. And she's already like, well, what are we going to do after the show? We're almost halfway through already. And what are we going to do? She always does that. And I said, don't worry. Next up, Yellowstone. Have you?
Nice. I like that. I haven't seen that either. I've heard things about it. Yeah.
I think I watched
got my guy in there, right?
Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He's amazing. I've watched about 3 seasons of it, and it's super, super good.
Nice.
It's like another modern day
I like that
Western.
kind of stuff. Yeah, I like that.
It's clever.
What's the guy's name? He's got the big mustache. He's always a cowboy. Sam Elliott. Yeah.
Yes.
I always like that.
I don't
guy.
think he's in there.
I thought he was. Oh, okay.
So. But so I started watching. This is what I do. I kind of like do the recon, and then I say, then I'll recommend only the best of the best to Lisa, and we'll watch them together. So I'm on Succession now. This is what I fall asleep to. So it's kind of cool because I don't. So when I rewatch these things with Lisa, I usually don't remember half of what I watched because I fall asleep during them. Anyway, Succession, man, it's about this like what's the Ted Turner type guy, billionaire mogul, old guy. And in the pilot episode, it looks like he dies, and his 3 kids, full grown kids, like 30, 40 years old, are really scrambling, like, who's going to take over the empire? And they're all greedy. They're totally messed up. They were emotionally abused their whole lives. So they're all screwed up. Anyways, the guy doesn't die. And he pulls out of it. He went into a coma. They thought they said he was going to die. So that's like episode 1. You think it's all about them fighting for the empire. Well, no, then you see in the next episode, the guy lives. He goes back to work. He comes back in and messes with everybody. And they're all just so screwed up, and the family's so dysfunctional, but everything's such high stakes. I almost would think I wouldn't like it because it's like being in ultra corporate America,
Right. Yeah.
But it's just really good in the acting.
Succession.
Yeah. It's
interesting.
So you'll hear about it.
Yeah.
I just got to the point where I heard about it so much that I had to check it out.
Yeah, I'm glad you told me about it, and I hope other people get to check it out too. Yeah. So Succession, and then the last one was what? Yeah.
Oh, Justified. Yeah,
Justified.
Now we've had to pay. We've had to buy those seasons because they left Prime. But you could buy them for like $20 a season.
Nice.
Now Succession's on HBO Max right now, so I'm surprised you haven't checked that out because you're a fan.
I just didn't know about it. Yeah, there's so many things I don't know what to pick. Every night. It's not like I'm still getting used to it, but it's like I don't know. I've never heard of this. Let's try that.
Well, what I've heard about. Cool stuff. Yeah, I've heard about endlessly is that show called Euphoria. I'm sure you've heard of that, right?
No, never heard of that either.
It's on HBO Max. I don't know. It's always being featured, but I hear about everybody's like, oh, it's the best show ever. Oh my God. I couldn't get past the pilot because it's about seems to me, I only watched the first episode and there must be something there I'm missing, but it seems to be like set in high school. So right there, I'm kind of lost. So you're getting a look at what kids are going through in high school in LA these days.
Oh boy.
And it's a whole lot of drug use, lot of drug use. And right there, I felt hungover watching it. I didn't feel good at all.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I could never, it still comes up. Like it recommends it to me. I'm like, that's how I got into Succession because I was looking for my next great thing.
Yes. I'm glad you're forging ahead with these things so I can avoid the crappy ones and go right for the good stuff. Because you've recommended some really good ones, man. I'm telling you.
Thanks. Because okay, so here's another one I was trying out on Netflix because it's been so popular. It just came out, Dahmer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I heard about that one. Yeah. I saw a clip of it and I thought, whoa, that was very realistic.
And the first, it's nice the way it started because I thought, all right, it's going to be the slow burn thing. We're going to start at the beginning and then work up to how he got caught, right? It starts right at the instant, like the case that he got caught, where he got caught. And then they back up.
The clip I saw was where, and I thought this was very compelling, where this guy that he had one of his victims had gotten away.
Yeah, that's how he got caught.
The neighbors were like, "This guy, you got to take this guy in," and the police didn't want anything to do with it. Yeah. Mostly because they realized that this guy was potentially his gay lover, and they didn't want to get in the middle of that.
Yeah, they did. There was a whole lot of homophobe stuff going on,
right?
For sure.
Right.
This is like the early 90s or something, if I recall.
Yeah, I think so. And did he live in a black neighborhood?
I would say mixed. And I was trying to figure out where it was because it looked like New York, but I thought he lived.
It was in Ohio.
It was like outside Akron, as I recall.
Yeah, it was somewhere in the northern Ohio.
Right. So
it was near us. I mean, he was close to where we lived.
I thought it was accurate.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
But
it was close.
Point,
yeah.
I got through 1.5 episodes, and they're only like half-hour episodes or something. But that first one was everything you just described. Oh God, it's like Euphoria. I just felt so dirty. I could.
Yeah. The whole story is just disgusting.
Dude,
the whole Dahmer
he ate
thing.
a lot of people. And
yeah, he did.
I mean, I know that there's more that I would learn if I would watch more of it, but they've uncovered like 5 skulls, human skulls, all kinds of organs in his freezer and stuff.
Right.
He had a vat of acid with decaying body parts in it, a 55-gallon drum of that disgusting stuff. So I couldn't make it past that.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm very sensitive like that.
I know you are. Yeah, so I don't recommend that one for you.
I'm not going to watch that. No. I already knew not to watch that one.
Have you been watching anything good? A good movie or anything?
Gosh, now I got to try to think of what have I seen that was really good. Nothing's coming to mind lately.
Yeah, like I could use a good thriller. A good thriller I really enjoy. But it's been a while since
I was trying to get into some Halloween movies actually.
Those are tough
because they're stupid. There's so many stupid Halloween movies out there. They're not even scary. They're just stupid.
Yeah.
It's just like with that. And most of them don't even make. Why would you do that? Like there's why are you going into that room? You hear all that noise in there, all that weeping and gnashing. So I've been disappointed in some of the storylines that I've been seeing around Halloween, and it's too bad.
Two of the best horror movies I think I ever saw were way back in the day. Number one is Exorcist. Always will be.
That always one, I got a chill when you just said that. Actually,
the other one, you probably won't agree with me on this one, but the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, that was terrifying. Are you kidding me? That was horrible.
It was a great idea.
Well, great idea. But because it turned into a night. Have you ever had a dream with Freddy in your dream? That's terrible.
No,
okay, I have. It happened right away. So I went over to, you'll like this. I remember Kevin Titmus and Glenn Fitch. They had an apartment in the college towers in Kent. And one day I just stopped over and Glenn was like, hey, we're just about to kick back and watch a movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm like, I was in a bad place mentally anyhow. And I watched that movie and I was all jittery after that. And I'm like, can somebody drive me home? I don't want to go out there by myself. And I think I dreamt about Freddy Krueger that night. And I'm like, Freddy's in my dream.
This is my point. Is as you say, they're all dumb. I mean, horror movies, 95% of them are bad. They're just dumb, predictable. Try to get you with some fake shocking stuff,
right?
The music,
gore,
and the
gore's not scary.
Senseless gore. What ones were good for a while were the Saw movies.
Yeah, I didn't like those. I see because it was. I guess like Exorcist to me was just a great, it's based on a true story. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't know that.
It's based on, in fact, it wasn't a little girl, it was a little boy, but
I know that there's another one. They called something like The Exorcism of a Girl's Name. Totally based on a true story. It was okay. It wasn't great. The Exorcist. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, there were some scenes that got cut out of the original movie that they added back in, and it was one where she's crawling down the steps, and I don't even know how it was like she was backwards crawling, and it was,
I saw it.
Like, even just thinking about it, it was so weird and bizarre looking. How did they do that?
There's another scene that I won't even verbalize on this podcast, that it is just profane and gross as you can imagine, and I'll leave it at that. But that's funny that this just became the Halloween special. Appropriate.
Happy Halloween, everybody. We're hoping that we get trick-or-treaters for the first time. But no trick-or-treaters ever showed up at my house in California. Not one.
Really?
We had candy every year. We talked for them.
Because I would think that there'd be a killing for them, like when you live there.
Right. Probably some history behind that, but we're thinking this year maybe they'll come around. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. We have interesting out here in Cleveland Heights. There's the street Scarborough, and on Halloween night, actually a week or two leading up to it, it's called Scareborough. They put out signs. Dude, I'm going to try to remember to take some video and show you. It's amazing. So you walk down, first of all, you can't even drive down there. Everybody goes there because all the neighbors try to outdo
They
each
all
other.
know it. Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, there's giant robotic things going on, smoke everywhere, all kinds of recordings of things and shadowy. I mean, it's amazing. I've taken video before in years gone past and put it on Facebook. People are like, it's a big thing in Cleveland. And it's just down the street.
Yeah, that's really cool. You know, in my neighborhood, there are some people that have really gone all out. This year, they have these things that are in people's yards where it's like, well, down the street, there's I don't know, about a 20-foot skeleton that they put up.
One too.
Yeah, and he's got his eyes glow at night and fire in his mouth and inside of his chest cavity. And man, that is freaky. And there's all kinds of big things like that in our neighborhood that are really, I mean, I'm like, I wouldn't want to have that in front of my house and then have to see it. Like it might be like the Freddy Krueger thing. You know?
Looking out the window, imagine the shadow it casts in your house.
Yeah,
we have one of those 20-foot.
Where do you put that in your
very
house?
Realistic.
It is. And so where are you going to put that and store that?
I watched them put it. I was riding my bike as they were assembling it, and you got to assemble the whole thing. It's not like they pull it out of a giant box.
I saw something on the news where we're looking for this man, and it was a video of a guy that finds one of those skeletons, and he just totally takes it down out of the yard and puts it on top of his van and drives away.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
I think it'll be easy to find that guy.
Well, maybe we should wrap this up. You got anything good going on this weekend?
I do actually. I got my friends Mike and Amy are coming over tonight for a little get together, and then tomorrow morning I'm going on a motorcycle ride to Lake Bartlett with my friend Scott and then another guy that I haven't met yet. So we're doing that tomorrow, and I got my Bible study tomorrow night, which is outstanding. And then I'm sure there's other things I got to do because my parents are coming into town in a couple of weeks, and looks like the kids are coming into town, and so is my brother at some point. So it's going to be all big Garrison get together going on over here.
That sounds amazing. I am working on this house over this weekend. That's my big thing. Hopefully Lisa and I just binge a little Justified tomorrow night, take a little break. That'd be fun. But that's pretty much it. It's going to be another beautiful weekend. We've had a beautiful fall. So really liking it. Guys, please sign up with us on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, whatever works for you. But a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts would sure be appreciated. At the least, if you want to make sure that you catch everything, our show notes and all that, go to over50startingover.com and sign up for our email list right there. And you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to do that, or Spotify. We're everywhere. We're everywhere, Merle.
There you go.
All right. So another classic podcast in the books. It was a great time. Great time.
Yeah, for me too, Barry. All right, brother. Bud. Love you, man.
Love you too, bud. Have a good weekend. See you all later.
You too. All right.